So it's been a while since I made my last video. So we're at the end of 2025, but unfortunately, it's not that kind of a year for Linux as we expected, but still, we still had a great year. But anyways, finally, I have switched to Linux. Now the recording you're hearing right now is in Linux. I mean, I'm still using Wine for some Windows applications, but in the end, I'm still using Linux. And it's like almost over a month now. No, I think it's like almost 2 months. It's been 2 months since I switched to Linux, and this journey was really interesting. And I got a lot to say. I've tried a lot of distros, and I've just switched back and forth, hopped, tweaked the lookings of my desktop. So in this video, I'll explain my experience. So without further ado, let's start the video. Hit the intro editor.
Bruh.
Okay, before starting to explain the actual experience, I want to clear some things off. I'm now currently doing dual booting because of some very special cases. I'll talk about that later, but I want to clear that out first. So after clearing things off, things were simple. I booted a USB and blah blah blah, installed the distro and happy ending, right? Right? No, absolutely not. At first, I have to pick a distro, and I wanted a simple but a little unusual distro, mainly because I have tried Linux before. So now, I have downloaded AnduinOS, and AnduinOS was mainly intended for beginners. So I thought that this would be the perfect distro to start off, because I actually wanted to try a lot of different distros. And the installation process was really easy, and the only major difference in the installation process was disabling Secure Boot. For your information, as far as I know, only Ubuntu and Fedora can support Secure Boot. So yeah, tough luck for other Linux distros. But never mind, because a lot of folks don't like Secure Boot, especially after the Windows 11 release. Although Ubuntu or Fedora doesn't strictly require Secure Boot, they at least support it. So I hope other Linux distros adapt this Secure Boot stuff, but I also hope that they keep supporting those legacy systems because a lot of those legacy systems don't have TPM modules or Secure Boot. So it's best to keep them optional. So after the installation, I booted up and whoa! It actually looks pretty similar to Windows 11, but I don't want to specifically talk about the looks of this specific distro. Maybe this is for another video, but for now, I wanted to kick things off with the style of Linux. So I immediately fired up command prompt, the terminal, and I actually felt pretty good. From the ancient command prompt or even somewhat modern PowerShell was actually kind of felt inferior compared to this Linux terminal. I know, there are a lot of third-party Linux terminals, but I just wanted to stick with the default terminal. And after opening the terminal, I updated the drivers. Yeah, there were drivers pre-installed in the kernel, but still, I wanted the latest drivers, so I just installed it separately. And for the audio drivers and the Wi-Fi drivers, they were all pre-installed, and I really had a blast. I had no issues whatsoever. The drivers were stable. I was experiencing and enjoying my Linux experience, but suddenly I forgot to actually install the recorder. So I had to find a new screen recorder because I previously used AMD Adrenalin, and Linux doesn't have AMD Adrenalin. Pretty disappointing, but I actually thought that okay, let's just find a new screen recorder, and I actually found a good one. It's literally named GPU Screen Recorder. Kind of generic name, but I'm okay as far as it works. And oh my, it works pretty well. It actually gives me options to record in different codecs. So yeah, I was pretty satisfied with the pretty simplistic UI, and the UI was actually kind of looking similar to the overlay of NVIDIA GeForce Experience app. But still, I was quite impressed. It supported I think all three companies, AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, so I think this is a good generic software. And moving on to some GPU tweaking, there was also another good app which is called Lact. I don't know what kind of name was that, I don't know, but still, it was a pretty solid GPU tweaker. I could tweak my fans, my clocks, monitor my temps, blah blah blah, all that good stuff, and it was quite smooth, unless the real issue starts kicking in. For some reason, the very next day I opened my PC, the whole distro broke down. I have no idea how it broke down. I was completely lost at how the heck did that even happen. Okay, for your information, I should mention that it was GNOME. So I actually tried to customize some stuff. Maybe it broke the whole desktop environment. So rest in peace, AnduinOS. Maybe next time. So I actually started looking for another distro, and eventually I found Fedora. which was fast and stable enough to handle my daily tasks and gaming. And when I found the downsides of GNOME, I started to looking for some alternative desktop environments, and I stumbled upon KDE. And KDE is like super good, super cool, highly customizable, and I love it. And at the time of recording this video, I'm currently using Kubuntu, which is a KDE flavored Ubuntu. I mean, it's just Ubuntu, but instead of GNOME, the KDE desktop environment is on top of it. And I'm highly satisfied with the experience of KDE. The stability of this desktop environment is also adequate. That's why I'm using KDE as my daily driver for now. And as I already said, it's highly customizable. So I tried different icon packs, different themes, different almost everything that could be customized. And it's the biggest selling point of Linux, so why not? And I'm pretty satisfied with my current customized desktop.
Can you shut the f up?
Okay, enough talking about the customization. Now let's talk about some practical stuff that we do with the computers. Firstly, gaming. The games that supports both Linux and Windows natively feels much better in Linux compared to Windows. For example, I played CS2 and man, CS2 feels so much better in Linux compared to Windows. And in Windows 10 or 11, I experienced a small amount of microstarters, but in Linux, there were no microstarters, like absolutely none. It was so smooth that I was literally shocked at how responsive the game was in Linux, and I was playing much better in the Linux system compared to Windows. But Linux has its own caveats, especially for the games that require kernel level anti-cheat. And so yeah, I couldn't play Battlefield 6, I couldn't play Valorant, and not to mention that I can't even play most of the latest games. For example, the latest open world RPG release named Where Winds Meet can't even run on Linux. I tried that on my Kubuntu system, but unfortunately it couldn't run. It couldn't even boot up, and my system terminal was throwing a bunch of weird error messages. So yeah, gaming on Linux isn't bad, it's actually quite improved nowadays, but unfortunately it's not at its peak yet. So if you want to switch to Linux as a gamer, please make sure that the games you play are well compatible with Proton, or even better if it has native Linux support. Other than that, I really didn't have any issues with controller support. The games that you can play with the controller are easily playable. I even tried my controller on an emulator in Linux, and it works just fine. And even the gyro and the rumble motors work fine. So I'm pretty satisfied with the controller support of Linux. Okay, enough with gaming. Now let's talk about video editing. And this is the most crucial part for me because I make contents that you guys are watching right now. And this part is really interesting. I really didn't know much about Linux video editing until I started to dig around with it in recent times. And man, the start of this video editing journey with Linux was really rocky. First things first, I knew that the best of the best industry-leading video editor for Linux is DaVinci Resolve. So I went straight to their website and downloaded their package, and oh man, installing DaVinci Resolve was like a huge challenge because like you can't just normally install it like other programs, especially if you're not using distros like Fedora. So I had to dig for another way, and fortunately there was actually a bypass or a workaround for the installer, and thank God I actually got a AMD GPU that supports ROCm. Now, you may ask, what is ROCm? ROCm is basically an CUDA alternative that is using the GPU for video editing or code compilation or running the code or running machine learning stuff, etc. For DaVinci, you actually need to use that in order to utilize your GPU. So thank God I actually had ROCm support in my 7800 XT, so I could easily install it after I knew the workaround to how to install the package on non-Fedora based distros. And for those who don't have an NVIDIA GPU with CUDA support or an AMD GPU with ROCm support, good luck. You actually have to work a lot more and find another workaround to install DaVinci on your PC. And even if you somehow manage to install DaVinci Resolve on a Linux distro, it will be a pretty hard time for you to have a smooth experience with DaVinci because it's actually pretty resource intensive. But installing was just the start. After installing, you have another issue, which is the codec issue. You see, for some licensing issues, the DaVinci free version can't actually encode or decode H.264 or H.265 encoding and decoding. So it's actually a pretty big pain to convert and edit and then convert again your videos and then upload it to YouTube or other preferred platforms. And the fix of this? use the paid version, or just get stuck. Like, there is literally no workaround. Fortunately, AV1 is in the rescue, but for some really stupid reason, AMD card does support decoding of the AV1 videos in DaVinci Resolve, but can't encode it again or like export the AV1 video again. I have no idea why this is even an issue, because AV1 is an open source encoding slash decoding format, so it shouldn't be a licensing issue. So it's mostly maybe a manufacturer slash DaVinci Resolve issue, maybe. I don't know, but if you really wanna deep dive about this issue, you can check it out on the internet or just comment down below, so at least it can actually motivate me for another detailed video about the issues of validity in Linux. So for now, let's just move on. Now, the overall UI smoothness, and it actually heavily depends on the desktop environment or the distro itself. And as I said before, I use KDE as my daily driver, and it's really smooth. And even better, the Linux distro automatically detects the highest refresh rate of the monitor, so I'm actually experiencing the full power of my monitor out of the box, which is pretty nice. And looking at you, Microsoft. Anyways, the overall UI feels real smooth, but sometimes it can go snappy, especially in newer desktop environments like the Cosmic desktop environment from PopOS/System76. Not gonna lie, it's actually pretty smooth, but they have to work a little bit more on their UI animation smoothness. But that's very specific, and that's a really rare case. And other than these exceptional cases, Linux actually provide a really smooth UI experience, so you'll actually feel the smoothness on it. And also, I have been doing some other stuff in Linux too, like downloading and installing some programs some different way, exploring the package managers, exploring the stores, exploring the development experience, like the coding experience in Linux, and overall it actually feels really smooth and bug free. Even though I actually jumped on this train really recently, although I think 2022 was 4 years ago when I actually started my Linux journey, but still, it's been 4 years, and I think even at this very small time frame, Linux has actually gained a lot more potential. And in 2026, I think Linux has become a not just great, actually a really solid alternative to Windows, unless you play games that requires kernel level anti-cheat, but that's another story. But for now, Linux has actually gained a really strong foundation, and the community support is really huge, and it's growing day by day. So I'm really optimistic about the future of Linux, and I hope one day Linux will be the de facto for home computing, because come on, other companies like Microsoft, although Linux is not a company, sorry about that, other companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, they're really focusing on AI, whereas Linux is still focused on the consumer base. So I'm optimistic about it, and that's all I had to say. If you like this video, give a thumbs up, and if you actually want to hear more discussions like this about operating systems, gaming, Linux, PC building, PC hardware, etc, you can subscribe my channel. It's highly appreciated, and I'm just starting off, so you can actually see that from my subscriber count, so even a single subscriber is highly appreciated. So till the next time, peace.